Just for you folks that are here that didn't hear, their planning committee ran just a little bit over, so we're going to try to wrap up our planning committee within the next 30 minutes, and then we'll move on to the Committee on Public Safety and Mass Transit. With that said, Mr. Clerk, will you please read in Communication 338, Bill 96?
Communication 338, Bill 96, an ordinance amending Chapter 25, Article 1, Article 4, and Article 5 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2005 edition as amended, relating to farmers markets as permitted uses in certain zoning districts. From Councilmember Zendo Kern, dated June 28, 2013, the bill would allow farmers markets as a permitted use in residential, commercial, mixed use, and agricultural districts provided certain conditions exist.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. May I have a motion to refer Bill 96 to the Planning Director and the Leeward and Windward Planning Commissions for their review and recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kanuha and a second by Ms. Eoff. At this time, I will relinquish the chair to my Vice Chair, Ms. Willie, so I can participate in the discussion.
Yes, okay. I here assume the chair of the Planning Commission as the deputy chair. And so, open the discussion. Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so this I thought was a good step in the right direction for building community, building our sustainable agriculture, and allowing more flexibility for community associations as well as farmers and people to come together and be able to sell their products. Right now, if you want to do a farmer's market, for most areas, you have to do a special use permit. So it has to go in front of the Planning Commission, and then a special use permit is granted from that. I felt that to build the sense of community, and that's what a lot of people are talking about, a lot of constituents that I talk to, is we're trying to build this sense of community, that a good place to start would be at the community associations, where it's community-owned, a viable, legitimate community association, and start there saying that you can have a farmer's market of up to 25 vendors within daylight hours. There's probably going to be some little tweaks and adjustments as we go along, but I think it's a good start, and it will open that up so people can actually grow their products, bring them to a farmer's market, and the community association can do that without having to go through the long, sometimes not that long, but the process of getting a special use permit. I hope that my fellow council members will support me on this. Just so you know, right now you can do farmers market on commercially zoned property, but you can't do it on ag. You can't do it on residential unless you have a special use permit. We are comprised of a lot of communities here on the Big Island, a lot of large subdivisions all around, and it's a great place. We have thousands of people that live in that community. I think it's a good place for people to be able to come together and build that sense of community through shopping for their produce, and for the people participating in the growing of the produce to be able to earn an income through that as well. So I look forward to hearing what my fellow council members have to say, and answer any questions that there may be. And I'd like to get this to the Planning Director and the commissions for their comment and review as soon as possible. With that, I'll yield.
Do you have others that would like to speak on this? Brenda?
Do we have anyone from the planning department here? Lucky guys. We lost Kona. I'll wait. Just hold on.
Madam Chair, could you please recess for a minute? We're working on some technical stuff in Kona.
We're now in recess to deal with some technical matters. Committee meeting, and Kona cannot hear us, or Kona cannot hear us, but we can hear them. So we're going to proceed. And let me see, did you have anything else you wanted to say, or we're going on to Brenda?
I can add a little bit more.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, just so we're clear on what I did here is made it so farmers markets with no more than 25 vendors shall be permitted within the RS, RD, RM, RCX, RA, FA, and A, and IA. That's basically the residential and agriculture and family agricultural districts. Provided the use shall occur only within private subdivisions, and further provided that a farmers market shall restrict its activity to the following locations: community buildings, facilities, parks, other common areas, and property established and maintained by the homeowners or tenants association for the common good of the community. The farmers market shall be organized by homeowners or tenants association having Internal Revenue Code 501c4 exempt status and operating pursuant to the rules established by the association. Farmers markets may only be operated during daylight hours and where adequate parking is available, provided that organizers and vendors comply with all these codes, covenants, restrictions, laws, ordinances, rules, or regulations regarding farmers markets, the sale of produce, and commercial activities. And the other areas where farmers markets are permitted are still allowable. So it's really simple. It's just putting into each one of these zoning categories that a farmers market shall be allowable.
Speak into the...
Shall be allowable up to 25 vendors during daylight hours.
Okay. Can everyone in the back hear what's being said? Okay.
And that, like I say, that's pretty much it. It's just taking it out of the special use permit area and allowing the communities to have a farmer's market if they want to. It does not mandate them that they need to. It's up to them, but it'll be allowable. So with that, I'll yield for now.
Okay.
I am.
Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. Okay, I have some questions. Let me state for the record, I'm generally in favor of this. I think we need some amendments to it, and those are some of the issues I want to discuss. So one of the first things I noticed in here on page 2 is you're allowing, in section 1 on page 1, you're allowing homeowners associations and tenants associations, but you don't allow road maintenance associations, which I believe is a C6. Mr. Brilhante, do you have some knowledge of that?
Good afternoon. William Brilhante, Deputy Corporation Counsel. Thank you, Ms. Ford. That's a good point you raised. The language in the proposed ordinance does specifically identify homeowners association with the IRS designation of 501c4. And I know just in previous and recent dealings with various other community entities, there are some road maintenance associations which kind of take on the role of a homeowners association. And I think specifically one of those entities is the Hawaiian Rancho subdivision. And I know that's an issue raised. So and their road
C6.
maintenance, yeah.
Right.
So I'll just confirm that they are a 501c6. So there may be some consideration given. And if the proposal is for this matter to go forward to the planning director and the planning commission for further discussion and consideration, I think that issue can be addressed at that time.
Okay, I personally prefer to have them dealt with here in the council before we send them over to the planning commission. But I think C6s, road maintenance associations, and there's also community associations, and I don't know what their C rating is. I don't know if it's a 501c C something or other, 1 through, 40 or whatever it is. But those, I think, should be allowed as well. I'd like to see all of those. I don't want to limit this. So that's my first concern. Secondly, you specifically talk about farmers markets. You don't talk about things that are called swap meets or rummage sales. And I don't have a problem with those occurring either. I would like to see them allowed. I don't know if it just means you need to change the definition a little bit. I just don't know, but I would certainly not want to disallow those types of events from occurring, because sometimes you have, what do they call them? White elephant sales, and there's all kinds of things you can call them, but I would like to see those allowed. The next issue that I have is, because it's ag land, we've got some very peculiar state land use laws. State land is divided into, I think, urban, residential, ag, and rural. And I'm just letting you know I'm having an issue in state ag land, because what I want to do, and I won't talk about that bill, but what I want to do is disallowed under state land A or B, what is the real term for that? It would, the
I think
designation.
they're intensive ag lands.
Yeah, okay. It's disallowed under A and B, but there's absolutely no reference made to C, D, E, F, or what any of the other types of classifications for the land. And the land classification is based on its rockiness. I'm making this up, but it's pretty close. Rockiness, how much soil is there? Is it considered an important ag land? There's all kinds of weird things. This bill is not addressing any of those land classifications, and I think you need to investigate that to make sure that we're not doing something a little strange. And to me, it doesn't matter what the land classification is, this should be allowed, but I think you need to deal with that issue. Also, I'm not sure about what is called important ag land. Is that always an A designation, Mr. Brilhante or Mr. Arai? Darren, please identify yourself first.
Sure. Darren Arai with the Planning Department. The A, B, C, D type of land classifications is, I believe, by the Land Study Bureau, and it is not necessarily associated with all important ag land designated areas, but it does provide some of the basis for making that classification. Under state law, when it says something is prohibited from like Class A and Class B soils, we go straight and look at the Land Study Bureau's classification and look directly to see if it does have an A and B classification.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, is if an entity, and I'll just call them that, wants to have a farmer's market and they turn out to be state land A, is a farmer's market by any other name, is it allowed or disallowed under these land classifications?
If we're talking about what state law allows now, the state land use law does not allow farmers markets anywhere on lands designated agriculture.
State ag.
State ag.
It could be county ag, and the underlying state designation might be rural, as an example, and that would be okay, but if it winds up being state ag, then farmers markets are not allowed.
If it's state land use ag, farmers markets are not allowed, and the only place where farmers markets are permitted, are allowed as a permitted use on urban designated lands is within the commercial zoning districts.
I think we have a little issue there that we need to resolve, because we need to do this. And I don't know if it's resolvable, because I'm, as I said...
Brenda, I want to just stop a minute. Can I check with Kona? Can you hear us at this point? No.
No.
Okay, I thought we'd heard no.
Okay, I hope that time is taken off my time. Anyway, okay. Then the next issue I want to talk about is the Department of Health, the State Department of Health. There are regulations on certain food products, especially if, I'm not even sure about produce, but certainly if it's a manufactured food product, there's DOH laws regarding health regulations. Certified kitchens are sometimes required, are any of those issues, Mr. Brilhante or Mr. Arai, the Department of Health regulations on that kind of stuff, do they impact this type of a bill?
They can hear. While he's doing that, I understand, Kona, you can hear us now? No? Okay. No. Happy. Do they have their...
They can hear us, but they cannot.
Well, then try getting the button pushed so the audio.
They can hear us, but nobody's gonna
Do they have the speakerphone on so they can at least hear what's going on?
She didn't text it, they can hear us.
They could,
Yeah.
somebody's waving.
Do they have the speakerphone on?
Okay, we heard him. Can he hear us when we talk?
Have a speakerphone on, they said.
Oh, hold on a second. Scott and Kona, wave if you can hear us.
Wave.
Oh, that was kind of a pathetic wave there, Scott. Okay, we're going on, okay? Okay, so you're going to reset my time back to the first, okay, all
Brenda,
right, I'm sorry.
relax.
Okay, so anyway, now the other issue that I have.
Brenda, we can hear you.
Thank you. All the way to Coleman, isn't that amazing?
We can hear you.
Thank you, guys. Okay. The last concern that I have, at least at this moment, is the lot size is not indicated here at all. The reason I am concerned is when you get into family, I think it's family ag, one of them, or maybe it's rural, you can go down to a half an acre. And I think there should be some kind of a minimum lot size on this, because when you go down to half an acre, you're talking ridiculous amounts of people on a half an acre of land. Would you address the size limit and what planning might or might not think about some kind of a minimum size?
Okay. Again, thank you, Ms. Ford. Let me take a step back. To your initial question was regarding the State Department of Health, the requirements associated with that. You know, this kind of all comes into play when we look at the discussion we've been having up to this point. You know, as Mr. Arai correctly stated, under the Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 205, farmers market is not a permitted use under state designated agriculture lands. So that being the case, the language in the HRS says it is therefore prohibited. So that's how we get the prohibition associated with these farmers markets. But like Mr. Kern, or Council Committee Chair Kern has alluded to, is that there is an avenue that the public's afforded if they want to proceed with a farmer's market on state ag designated lands. That's the special permit requirement. And part and parcel to that special permit requirement is the fact that the applicant has to get clearances from the State Department of Health as to what the proposed use or the expanded proposed use will be. And that's where the Department of Health permission comes into play. As it relates to the minimum lot size, I'll let Mr. Arai address your question regarding that.
I don't know what is an appropriate size of a lot to accommodate 25 vendors. We have not, while we've seen this draft bill, we haven't had the opportunity to kind of look at it in depth to see what standards should prevail. I'm not sure how many vendors are like in downtown Hilo, and I don't know how many like say on-site parking stalls should be needed to accommodate not only the 25 vendors but the clients who visit there as well. So the bill does raise some questions that we hope can be addressed, especially before it gets sent down to the Planning Commission.
I do think we should address these before. Is my time actually up? I can yield and come back a little later.
Why don't you yield?
Okay, I yield at this moment.
Okay,
Can I respond real quick?
yes, you may.
Regarding the road associations and the other associations, I have no problem putting those in there. That makes sense to me because I know sometimes the road association acts as the homeowners association. That's fine. Minimum lot size, I think we should look at that and attach parking to that. That's some of the fine part I wanted to actually work with the department on. Submitting this bill, I knew that there was going to be some of these questions coming up. I wanted to get the basic framework for it, have some discussions, see what concerns there were, send it forward to the director and the commission, work with the director before it goes to the commission to try to address some of these issues. So it comes back to us pretty much complete. I don't feel that we need to make the amendments today, as I will work with them to make these. As far as the swap meets and rummage sales go, or as potential in there, I'm more on the fence with that because that can sometimes really, between a farmer's market and a rummage sale, it can really change, and I'm hesitant on that, but consider it. And the minimum lot size, I definitely think we should look at. So all of those, other than the swap meet and rummage sales, I'm workable and will work with that. So, thank you.
Councilmember Kanuha?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also had a few points I wanted to make about this, and it was already brought up earlier about the lot size. That was an issue I had, and if Mr. Kern wants to work on that, that's fine with the planning department. The parking situation too, especially when you have 25 vendors and you never know how many people are going to be going to these farmers markets, especially in residential areas. What's the neighbors going to think when you have maybe 100 people that show up with all their cars? Where's everybody going to park? So that's a big issue that I had, and I'm sure Mr. Kern knows about those type of issues, and he's going to work with the planning department accordingly. But that's the two issues I had. As far as with Ms. Ford's concerned, the swap meets, I was kind of with Mr. Kern on that, in that I think we need to focus just on the farmers markets. I think that's the important thing with this one that he wants to focus on. I think I'm fine with just focusing on just the farmers markets and maybe leaving out the swap meets or the elephant sales, whatever you were saying earlier. But that's the concerns I had, and I'm sure everybody else, a few others, had the same concerns. So thanks.
Councilmember Onishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only, one of the concerns that I have is also about traffic. And, we did, I think most of us seen in the papers that there is that ranchos doing an appeal, right? Because of what happened with their approval, they getting approval of this, I guess, swap meet or farmers market, and then now it's affecting the neighbors. And so, would you want to comment on that, or not maybe on that issue, but about like the parking part, about about the roadways, because they're saying about how they have to maintain it, and they need funding.
Mr. Nishi, you're correct. There is a current appeal in front of the County Hawaii Board of Appeals regarding a swap meet or a farmer's market in the Hawaiian Rancho subdivision. And I think there's some nuances with that case that may not directly correlate to what's being proposed right now. However, you're correct in that one of the primary issues is the issue regarding on-site parking for, like Mr. Arai said, it's not just the parking for the vendors, but primarily it's the parking for the general public that's going to come and support the farmers market. And as the director or the establisher of the farmers market, it's your goal to attract as many potential buyers and members of the public to come and support your entity. So there's kind of like a balancing that has to go on between what's the desired level of public and what's too much public coming in to support the market. So I think Mr. Kern's proposal to have these issues addressed when we move through the process, I think would be appropriate, and I'm glad we got airtime for it right now.
Thank you. Darren, you want to mention something?
One of them is if you look at the definition of farmers market in the zoning code, and sorry, I have to look at it on my phone, but it talks about farmers market means an area open or partially enclosed at which vendors gather to sell personal property. The activity may also be referred to as open or open air market. So it does talk about just selling our personal property. In the commercial zone districts, if I remember correctly, it did make a distinction that if you operate 2 days or less per week and you pretty much sell just vegetables, produce, fruits, and the like, then you're not subject to the typical standards required for commercial uses, which is parking and landscaping requirements and all of that. If in the commercial zone districts you introduce a farmer's market that operates more than 2 days per week, plus sell personal property, I guess I should say, that's more than just vegetables, fruits, and flowers, then the department can trigger what they call plan approval, which is where we look for adequate on-site parking and landscaping requirements and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear that when I believe farmers market and maybe something kind of like akin to a swap meet could be similar. Second is my concern about sending this bill down to the planning director to present to the planning commission. If I remember correctly, we only have 120 days in which to turn around a recommendation. So I'm not sure if that kind of forces us to, especially when you're trying to craft a bill and craft a good bill. I'm just worried about that time frame. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so my next question would be then, this is the first time you folks seen this?
I heard about it several weeks ago, and I did shoot some comments to my director, but that's about the extent of it.
Okay. Because maybe what might be good is we postpone this, and then Mr. Kern, you can go work with the department more closely, and then come back again with something, much, agreeable within the department and the council, and then we can go and move that forward. Yeah. So, that would be a suggestion if you can do that. And I guess the other thing too, like as you mentioned, it's hard to, specify swap meets, farmers market, because to me as a farmers market would have to be like vegetables, produce, and all that kind of other things but then we all know at all other farmers market you have other items, right? And so it comes more like a swap meet, and so to limit might be hard too, but if you it's just a suggestion that if you can postpone this and work with the department. Thanks.
Councilmember Iligan, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two concerns that I wanted to voice out, and the first one is it deals with public safety. And Corp Counsel Brahante, you mentioned that in the special use permit, they have to go through a checklist of the DOH, Department of Health. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because we're actually removing the special permit process. So I'm worried about these vendors when they're selling things. Who's accountable for that check with the Department of Health? Because right now what I'm reading is that it goes through the association rather than through the Planning Commission for that special permit. So could you answer that question for me?
Mr. Iligan, Councilman Iligan, thank you very much again for putting me on the hot seat. I enjoy this very much.
I love you.
I think as it relates to your question, one of the things that, we somewhat have to harken back to is because farmers market under the HRS is not a permitted use, I am not confident that moving forward with this ordinance would then take away the requirement that we have to get a special use permit pursuant to the state ag land designation. So my opinion at this time would be that subsequent of the outcome of this bill, the special use permit requirements would still be in place, and therefore the applicant would still have to move forward with that. And that, again, is specifically hearkening back or referencing back to the language under the HRS Section 205 for permitted ag use.
Thank you. So my second concern deals with, again, the special use. And one of the things that I like about the special use permit is that it does bring you and get you out to the community to find out what their input is. And I understand the association also has that leeway where they can get their input from the community. So that does take care of it. But the second concern I have is when the neighbors are affected either by traffic, the noise, parking, so even signs. So those are my concerns, and I just wanted to let you know while you're crafting this legislation. And I understand the intent, and I would like everyone to be able to sell their produce, because it's the hardest thing to do is making it and then selling it. It's hard to find vendors. So I'm open to having those areas, because that's the biggest part. Thank you.
May I comment?
Oh, go ahead.
I too, when I first read this bill, and Mr. Kern did, like Mr. Arise stated, he did send the proposed bill out to Mr. Kanua, Mr. Arai, and myself, and we did have some dialogue. We met internally with the planning department, and then I think Mr. Kanua sent some of his concerns to Mr. Kern. So, the process was vetted to a certain extent. So, nobody's trying to do this, at the 11th hour or, any reference like that. But, when I first read this bill, one of my concerns was that, the special use permit process affords some confidence from the public. They know that the government, to people like the government, people don't like the government, that's back and forth. But they know the county is kind of on top of it. An application has to go to the planning department. That application also has to go to the planning commission. Public notice is given, and surrounding lot owners are required to be notified of the proposed use. And I think the confidence that it instills with the public is, we don't know what the entire spectrum of this farmers market is going to be. Is it going to be as successful as the Maku'u farmers market, where I had the opportunity to go by a couple weeks ago, and that parking lot was just full. I'm not sure if anybody reasonably anticipated prior to the the enactment of that farmers market that it would be so successful. And if there's a farmers market in Paradise Park, or Hawaiian Ranchos or HOVE, or whatever, nobody has a crystal ball. We can't tell how successful this farmers market or how much of a demand that it will be. So what the special permit process affords is it affords the continued oversight of the market. One of the provisions that is always incorporated in the special permit application or approval is a condition that the planning director has the authority to, at any point in time, address concerns that are raised by the public, and appropriate measures may be taken by the planning director, including but not limited to sending the matter back to the planning commission for further remedies or addressing of the issues or the complaints. And that's what I think, that's a component that is inherent with the special use permit that I think we have to try and ferret it out and incorporate into Mr. Kern's bill. I think we can do that. I don't think it's an impossibility.
And on top of that, us as a body, we want to see vendors be successful. When we start something out, we want to see it grow and not set for any failures. So I agree with your statements. And I also just wanted to say that my family went through that special permit process, and one of the benefits from that process was everyone got to know that there's this store there, or there's farmers market there. Because some people, when you build something and no one knows about it, of course they're not gonna come. But that special use permit process let the neighbors and the community know that there is a farmers market right there. So I just wanted to voice that out. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification real fast. Just for Mr. Brohan, or for the public to know that when you speak about Mr. Kanua and which Mr. Kanua you say it's going to, So I never got this weeks ago. Our planning director got the...
You're correct, Mr. Drew Kanua. The proposed ordinance was sent to Mr. Dwayne Kanua, the planning director. Thank you. I apologize.
Councilmember Poindexter?
Yeah, I like the idea that this is coming to communities as well, and it's an opportunity it makes me think about growing up in the plantation villages. And it doesn't only have to be a market where you sell. It can be a place to barter, because I know we had an abundance of peanuts, and neighbors down in a different camp had a lot of lettuce, and we'd barter. So this is an opportunity for communities to come together and share what they have in their food baskets. And I think this is a healthy way to build the food sustainability that we talk about. It's going back to basics again on what we did back in the day, Now this is an opportunity to do that. So I like the idea of this, because I support the bartering, because that's where communities can survive, especially when if there's any kind of hurricane or anything that happens, at least you have built a model where if the bridges are down or whatever, you have each other and you can share and barter and survive that way. That's what we did in the plantation camps. So I'm looking forward to this, so thank you.
Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Just as a comment, a couple of comments, and this has nothing really to do with pro or con on the bill, because I'm actually pro. In Ranchos, which is in my district, we have private roads, and they're being degraded by the public parking illegally in places, and they're causing the shoulder edges to fall off. And so we need to maybe think about most of our roads in our rural areas are private roads, and somebody's got to maintain those, and that's the local landowners or road maintenance association, and we just need to consider that. But this is an issue that I wanted to bring up. Your bill is raising the issue to the public, but this issue is pervasive. And the issue is, we have this ancient state law that says you can grow agricultural products in an ag zone, but you can't sell them there. You can't have a market unless you go through this process. But you can cross the line to the next parcel that's either residential or commercial. Okay, it's fine, you can do it there. And it just not only baffles me that it's lasted this long, but it annoys me because of just what you're bringing up here. I think Mr. Brilhanti is correct. We're going to get stuck with this state law even if we pass this bill. And so my quick comment is, I think we need to send a resolution to the state legislature and ask to get that law changed. But we still need to do this. Maybe not as quickly as we had hoped, because the state won't be in session till January, and God knows if they'll even pay attention to the problems we're having out here. But it's really a frustration to me to have to go into a commercial zone, a residential zone, or even an industrial zone, I don't know if that's right, and sell ag products when we could sell them fresh right at the source, or within, a small area where we can get to our neighbors and do what you did in the plantation days. So I think Mr. Kern's got a real good thing here, and I think we need to go, not in this bill, it have to be something completely separate, but we need to take that step. Thank you.
Okay, we're trying to wrap this up pretty quick, but go ahead, or would you like me to speak first? I'm going to say a few words. Would you like to
I'm ready to close it, so whenever everyone else is done.
Okay, so I'm going to say, as chair, I agree with what everyone has said in terms of promoting community and connectivity, especially around food and being self-sufficient and resilient. I think one of the issues is really where we're turning it over to private places, is to also look at what other locations are available. I've been trying to look at where can we do maybe food truck parks or different things, but the key is addressing the traffic issues and the other issues that so that it is not zoning has to do with the expectation of people moving there and what they think they're getting, and their pluses and minuses, and like you said, the example of 100 cars, we want things to be successful, and we don't want, so I'm glad that you want to take the time to work on these issues. I will say, when you talked about adding the road associations, I think it's important that the associations look at what that mission statement is. Often road association agreements will say this only has to do with maintenance of the road, that they would need to expand what that authority is, because otherwise you don't have the authority of everyone. So anyway, sounds good, and that you're going to work on it, and we do need to get the state to change a few rules, and we'll leave that to Bill to put something together for us. Thank you.
Hey, I like that idea.
Okay, you want to finish up, or you want me
Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to finish it up.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Great discussion. I do think the state land use is an issue, as we have many issues with the state that do not fit or meet our environment, our climate, our island, our county. I will also stand with Bill and help make that happen, because it can't stop here. I believe that we do need to have the proper constraints to make the community comfortable and safe, absolutely. But we also need to take away regulation at a certain time. Sometimes we over-regulate, and this is about finding that balance and having the properly crafted bill, which is great to have this discussion, that takes care of it within that. And it can be through, the various departments it has to go through to have the normal checks and balances. But this is an area where I feel like we should get out of the regulating of this particular element when it comes to these community associations, so we can really build the community. Just because we're lawmakers, we don't need to regulate, I feel. There is a place for that, but it has to be done right. I couldn't agree more. And again, this is the right step in the right direction. We'll work on the state issue as well as these other concerns. With that, I have a meeting with the director like next week, so I will talk story with him on that and get together with you guys in the meantime. I'm going to move to postpone to the call of the chair, which would be me, and try to get it back up in here within our next committee meeting or the very next.
Okay.
Any discussion on the motion? Postpone. I did the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved to postpone, and we've had a second from Councilmember Onishi. So we take a vote on this? Any discussion on the postponement? Hearing none, we can move right along to all in favor? Aye. All opposed? No opposes, so, and we can...
Madam Chair, move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Okay. We'll take about 5 minutes, and then we'll go into the next committee meeting, which is mine. Public Safety. Thank you.